Thank you very much for being here. Today, we have a very special occasion, an announcement that an agreement has been reached among key labor leaders, legislative leaders, and my administration to raise the minimum wage over time to $15 an hour, making California the first state to do that. It's a matter of economic justice. It makes sense and will help our entire state do much better for its citizens. This program of a $15 minimum wage will happen over time in a gradual way, and there'll be flexibility in the event that there's a recession or a budgetary downfall as prescribed in the bill. So unlike other efforts, this thing is the result of a lot of thinking, a lot of discussion, and I think taking ideas from a number of sources. So that's why it's significant. And once again, California is showing that we can do right by workers, we can advance our economy, and we can do it through the legislative process. And now I'd like to turn it over to Kevin DeLeon.
Thanks a lot, Governor. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. In the wealthiest state, in the wealthiest nation on earth, no one who works full-time should be forced to live in poverty. Wages have stagnated for decades, while consumer costs, corporate profits, and executive bonuses have skyrocketed. It's time to restore the California, the American dream for working families. I am pleased that we have a deal in place that will raise the living standards for millions of Californians, while also, at the same time, spurring new demand for goods, services, and helping businesses thrive. This will benefit 5.6 million workers, 32% of the statewide workforce. Now that's a staggering statistic, 32% of individuals who today live on the minimum wage. Now, it's not just a higher wage, but it's a smart wage, and it will be implemented in a way that protects our budget and remains sensitive to economic conditions. By doing this through the legislative process with support of Governor Jerry Brown, it shows that the legislature can craft smart compromises on big issues, and it shows that we can possibly remove a measure from an already crowded November ballot. But most importantly, today's move shows California knows how to lead first. This is when some states in the nation are in fact even trying to reduce projected minimum wages. Earlier today, I joined Treasurer John Chung to announce the first step in providing retirement security for 7 million Californians with a program that's now being analyzed and looked over by 15 other states in the nation. We are the nation before the nation becomes itself. In no other area have we shown a commitment to progress than in supporting working families and making sure parents and children have the tools to achieve success. Now I'll share a few words in Spanish as well. En el país más rico de la nación de este planeta, nadie que trabaje tiempo completo debería ser obligado a vivir en la pobreza. Los salarios se han estancado durante décadas mientras que los costos del consumidor, las ganancias corporativas y los llamados bonos de los ejecutivos se han disparado. Es hora de restaurar a California el sueño dorado, el sueño americano para las familias trabajadoras que están trabajando día a noche sin descanso. Estoy muy contento de que hoy tenemos un acuerdo que elevará el estándar de vida para millones de californianos mientras generamos nueva demanda de bienes y servicios y ayudamos para que los negocios prosperen. Al hacer esto a través del proceso legislativo, con el apoyo de nuestro gobernador Jerry Brown, queda demostrado que la legislatura puede elaborar compromisos inteligentes en temas importantes y además ayudar a eliminar una iniciativa de la votación en noviembre, ya de por sí ya está bastante saturado. Este acuerdo permite que el gobernador interrumpir los incrementos anuales mientras el salario mínimo se encamina hacia los $15 la hora, en el caso que haya un déficit presupuestario o específicamente ante malos indicadores económicos. Pero lo más importante, que la decisión de hoy demuestra que en primer lugar, California sabe cómo liderar. Algunos estados incluso están tratando de reducir los salarios mínimos proyectados. A mí me da mucho gusto estar aquí hoy día con nuestro gobernador Jerry Brown y gracias por su liderazgo. Thank you, Governor, for your strong leadership. I also want to thank very much the family of labor. Mr. Pulaski, who's not here today, but is out of the country. I want to thank him, as well as our Secretary General, the President of SEIU State Council, LaFonza Butler. I want to thank you very much, and to all the members of labor and to all the community organizations who worked very hard. Also, I want to give a special thank you to the staff of Governor Jerry Brown, because they worked very hard, and their leadership is demonstrated in the $15 minimum wage proposal that is before us. With that, it is with a great pleasure that I introduce Holly Diaz, a woman who works tirelessly, 7 years working at Burger King. Today she's making the minimum wage, $10 an hour, with her 5-year-old son, Raiden, 5-month-old son, I should say, not 5-year-old son, but he grew fast over the past 24 hours. 5-month-old son, Raiden. Bottom line is, she loves her job, but she surely doesn't love the salary that she makes. With that, Holly Diaz.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank every worker out there who stood up for their families and for each other and demanded $15 an hour. I would like to thank our governor for listening to us and signing this in. This is a history-making day for all of us. Yes, I have a 5-month-old. His name is Raiden, and the struggles are real. But it's not about me. It's about all workers. The struggles are to the point where I have to choose of feeding me and my child, buying bus passes, paying rent, and it's not fair. I love my job. Yes, I do. But I love my family more, and I should not have to struggle daily to support them. Today, our great nation is watching us as history is made. And we are showing them that when we stand together as one, we win. So I just want to say thank you.
My name is Catherine Leibarger, and I'm the president of the California Labor Federation, AFL-CIO. And on behalf of the more than 2.1 million working families that we represent across the Golden State, I'm proud to be here with our governor today announcing that 6 million hardworking Californians will be getting a long overdue raise. Income inequality is the defining issue of our time. Despite our economic recovery, too many underpaid workers, early educators, food servers, caregivers, and even some college professors struggle to pay rent and afford the basics like food and childcare. But California workers and their movement, the Fight for 15, have stood together to lift the floor for all Californians. And thanks to the governor and legislative leadership who have worked to make that demand a reality, California is once again leading this nation. In particular, I want to commend them on the thoughtful and balanced approach they have taken on this proposal. California will phase in its wage hike over several years. Once it gets to $15, it will be tied to inflation so that most working families never have to wait decades for a raise again. It includes provisions that will make this policy work both for workers and businesses in all economic contingencies, rooted in the basic recognition that more workers with more money to spend is fundamentally good economic policy. It is. And finally, it is a proposal that will build on last year's progress to guarantee 3 days of paid family sick leave to all full-time workers so that we can all be at our best at work and be with our children when they need us most. We look forward to building on this historic progress in the months and years to come so that more Californians, like child care workers and others paid as contractors, can access ladders to the middle class and to ensure no one who works full-time has to raise their family in poverty. So thank you to the working people who fought for this, and thank you, Governor Brown. Next, I'd like to bring up LaFonza Butler.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is LaFonza Butler. I am the president of SEIU California, and on behalf of the 700,000 working men and women who get to wear purple T-shirts every day, what a great day. I'd like to start just by thinking, as we are preparing to celebrate Cesar Chavez Day this week, it reminds me of his words when he said, "Our poverty damages our dignity." Today, with Governor Brown, Senate President Kevin De León, Senate Leader Mark Leno, and other legislative leaders and community partners who have worked to make this day possible, we are today saying that 1 in 3 Californians will have the opportunity to lift their families out of poverty and to again reclaim California's dignity, as Cesar Chavez worked so hard to do. You've heard the details of the agreement that was reached. This has been good conversation amongst the governor's staff, the governor, the legislative leaders, workers throughout the state of California. But today really does belong to them. It belongs to the workers who stand on their feet all day long cooking our food, the men and women who stay up all night long taking care of our elderly and our disabled, the janitors who work late nights and long hours, the men and women who make our hotel beds and who work in our grocery stores. Today is their day, and their work often is invisible to all of us who receive their services every day. But today I stand on their shoulders. This agreement puts a better future in the grasp of millions of Californians. And to all of these workers who's shown incredible courage to walk out on strike and put in long hours talking to members of their communities, we get to again say that California is leading the nation, not just in climate change, not just in criminal justice reform, but in economic justice to millions of Californians. And Governor Brown will now come back and we'll be able to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes.
Ask you, this has been under discussion for a long time. You've been asked ever since you signed the 2013 law to reconsider it.
Yes.
What finally cemented this for you?
I guess what really cemented this deal was the flexibility, the long-term implementation, and quite frankly, the specter of the initiative. That's certainly a major force bringing people together and making very attractive the program that we're laying out in this bill. This bill is doable. It's helping workers. I think it will work in all parts of the state under all conditions. So we were not there in January. We are there today.
And these off-ramps, these pauses, these
Yes.
were key to you agreeing to it?
Yeah, because you get a big recession, and particularly in different parts of the state where wages are a lot lower, there could be real problems in terms of reduction of jobs. So this one gives the opportunity to pay a $15 wage, but does so in a way that takes account of the vagaries of the capitalist economy, if I could call it that.
Governor, Speaker Anthony Brendan is not here today. What does that indicate? Are you worried about this deal making it through the Assembly?
No, the speaker is going to be briefing his caucus. In fact, I think he's doing that in just a few minutes, and that's totally appropriate. What we're talking here is an agreement among leaders, and certainly the legislature will consider and debate. But I think things look very good, and I know the speaker himself supports this measure.
Governor, I've heard from business groups concerned that they feel they were cut out of the negotiations and didn't have a seat at the table. Is that true?
Not really, no. The concerns of small business and the business community more generally were definitely taken into account. And the work product demonstrates that.
Would you say, though, that members of the business community were active members in the negotiations along with the folks behind you?
Well, who sits at the table when there are a number of meetings, dozens, if not more than that, meetings, and there are lots of phone calls and visits. And so you come up with things. The way a bill comes together is not some formalized process where each person who is concerned is in the room. It's a moving target with a lot of conversation, and the work product is excellent. And the fact that California is the first state to get this done, and I think that's really good. And so business would listen to. But remember, we've got to listen to workers. Workers are the ones who gets the wages, and there's no doubt in this country the gap between the better off and those who struggle at the bottom of our economic world has grown bigger and bigger. And it is quite incredible that there's so much power, so much wealth, and yet so many people struggling on $10 an hour, and people out there in the rest of the world getting $7.25. And you got a Congress that doesn't get it, that's so out to lunch that they, much less $15, they can't even get to $7.50. So I'm hoping what happens in California will not stay in California, but spread all across the country.
Governor, what about the initiative on the ballot already that would raise it by 2021? Do you have a deal in place to eliminate that from the ballot?
We have a lot of good conversation, and I'm very hopeful that that will be the case, that this legislative solution will be the enduring legislation.
Ms. Butler, does this, if this is signed into law the way you have it, will your folks pull yours off the street gathering signatures?
The SEIU State Council is prepared to pull our measure off the street from gathering signatures with the passage of this bill, but we are going to continue to work to make sure that the initiative is positioned if the legislative leadership isn't able to come to an agreement. But we are pleased with where the legislative leadership is, where their sentiment lies. But yes, we are prepared to do that once this passes.
And we have a representative of the United Healthcare Workers who are supporting this legislation. So I think it looks very good.
Governor Bernard, you've got, this will put a strain on the state budget, I assume. There's talk of the CSU faculty going on strike, childcare is seeking a raise. How are you going to pay for all this?
Well, we take each proposal one at a time. And because this is spread out over time, the economy each year grows. In fact, if it doesn't grow, then we slow the adoption of the proposal. So you've mentioned some other items, and there's more that you haven't mentioned. So that's the job here of the legislature and my office and myself to figure out what we should be spending and what we have to defer.
Does this include a budget cost in the coming fiscal year?
Yes, but it's relatively modest. I think 40 million. 20 million. Well, to half a year is 20 million. So it can be handled.
Let me add to that too. That's why we believe that this is not just the most ambitious minimum wage deal in the nation, making California again the leader, but secondly, this is a smart minimum wage increase. As been mentioned before, we incrementally phase in over a course of 6 years. The governor and whoever the future governor is going to be will have an opportunity to press the pause button if we go into a budget deficit, if the national CPI consumer price index is such, and with the sales receipts coming in that are very low and unemployment rates are high, that it's not prudent for small businesses to take this on at this moment. So therefore, as mentioned, this is a very fair, this is very balanced, it helps the workers, but we also believe it's very protective of small businesses in the state of California. And with regards to the other issues that are at hand, it's like juggling with a lot of balls in the air. It's about priorities, not to say that they're a less of a priority, but we have to look at everything because everybody can't have everything that they want at the same time. So it's an issue that we have to look at, as the governor says, issue by issue, some things we can tackle head on. And this year, I would say 2016, with the governor and with the legislature, we already got the MCO tax reform. We already got ongoing appropriation for the most vulnerable, developmentally disabled, young boys and girls and young adults and older adults. We also have tobacco measures that we pass, and now the minimum wage, which in comparison to Washington D.C. and the U.S. Congress under Ryan and under McConnell, which to date I believe haven't moved forward any significant piece of legislation that helps improve the human condition for any individual, irrespective of your party. This is pretty good stuff today in California.
Yeah, look, I would just say the California legislature and the state government are doing remarkable things. Does that mean that there aren't real financial burdens out there? No, it doesn't mean that, because there are long-term liabilities, and there are, even in the short term, with the ebb and flow of the budget, we'll have to be very prudent and cautious, and I will.
Your budget summary in January warned of deficits with a minimum wage of $15 to 2021. Isn't that right? What's changed with this proposal?
This is a proposal that takes into account the possibility of deficits. According to the formula, if 2 years out there's a deficit of a certain amount, then this can be deferred.
Governor, are there any carve-outs for any particular labor sectors or for collective bargaining in this, in terms of whether we're
No.
going forward?
No.
What if business groups dig their heels in and stage a strong opposition? Democrats in the Assembly, there's a moderate bloc that's more sympathetic to business concerns. What's the path to passing the law?
Well, given the fact there's a more far-reaching $15 minimum wage on the ballot already that can be taken off if this measure passes, I think it'll be a very, very few business people that are going to lobby against this bill, because then they're just cutting their own throat.
Governor,
Yes.
well, this is such a great thing for lower income workers. What do you have to say to those smaller businesses who may not even have enough to pay for all their workers?
I say that this bill has a time horizon of many years, and people can prepare to adjust. And that's just the way it is. I mean, obviously, if you took the wages down, cut them in half, it would make it easier for certain businesses. But you can't function that way, because we're a community of not only business people and buyers of goods, but workers who provide those goods. So you've got to find a balance among all sides. And if anything, we haven't gotten to that balance yet because of the huge inequality that exists.
Governor, what would you say, sort of building on that question, this isn't the only thing that businesses have to kind of take into account. You know, we have paid sick leave, there's talk about, family leave, and this. Can you understand how some businesses in California might feel they're being squeezed?
Yes. And compared to other states, they have a certain argument. But given the fact that California is growing faster than the other states, both in the production of wealth and in the generation of jobs, California is handling these efforts to make sure that workers are brought along with everybody else.
Are you
This
concerned?
might make it harder for some farmers to compete globally in 5 or 6 years. Do you share any of those concerns?
Well, we've listened to the business community, the Chamber of Commerce, and all their constituent members, which is the broad swath of business. So we understand that this can be difficult. But the fact is that there's a principle called the living family wage, which is a doctrine that's been around for a long time, since probably the 1900s or before the 1900s. And that is that you can't really expect someone to work if the wages for that work cannot support a family. Everybody talks pro-family values. Well, a family living wage is a family value, and we're not even at that with this, but we're taking the steps to get as close as we can.
Let me add one thing with the governor, because let's put this in a realistic context. There is a ballot initiative that already qualified last week. As the governor just mentioned, it's a much more ambitious proposal because it gets to $15 sooner than our proposal. Secondly, there are no off-ramps. So if the economy tanks, you're going to go to $15, period. And it doesn't make a difference what the ramifications are for businesses, in particular small businesses. So this is a pragmatic approach with the leadership of the governor, legislative leadership, labor, all the folks, all the interests who've come together, made a very pragmatic decision to say, how can we still give folks a livable wage and tear it out into the future? This is a very pragmatic decision. This is not made in a vacuum, because there is a ballot initiative that's already qualified. And short of any negotiated deal, it goes to the ballot. And all the polling that I've seen across the board, Republican or Democrat, irrespective if you're from the Central Valley, from a high-cost area like the Peninsula, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, white, Latino, African-American, Asian-American, folks are supporting a minimum wage increase across the board, irrespective of political party. So again, this is a reflection of smart, pragmatic decision-making.
And Governor, to that point, just briefly, could you, I mean, in some ways, is it fair to say there's a bit of a template here about your approach to governing? I mean, you're looking for a middle ground, it seems like a lot of times. Whether people think you hit it is for them to opine on, but, I mean, is that kind of a message here about what you look for? You're looking for one side wants this, I mean, you're brokering deals. I mean, this is kind of the way you've approached a lot.
Well, that's part of what you do in government. Government is a place that allocates goods and rules and other things that affect people's lives. And this is a bold proposal. Make no mistake about it. It is more flexible than the initiative. And because it's the legislative process, there have been a lot of negotiations and a lot of conversations. So we've tailored it to the complexity of the situation that we face. But yes, this is not, governing is not about just having some idea or some slogan or some soundbite and then trying to put it into effect. Governing does have its own skills, and I would say, and I've reflected on this the last few years, it's quite remarkable what California's been able to do. And the success, of course, is very much influenced by the fact we're on a business cycle that so far knows only one way, and that's up. Now, that won't always be, and when that turns around, I think the job will be far more challenging than it is today.
Are you concerned that by raising the minimum wage, jobs are going to be mechanized out of existence, as has happened in?
Well, that will happen. I mean, there was more than 100,000 dock workers before automation came in under Harry Bridges. I think on the Pacific Coast is 10,000, but they make a hell of a lot of money. So yes, higher wages lead to automation, and automation leads to further investment in the economy, and it keeps changing. So we always have to be nimble and respond with different investments, different government policies. So it's challenging, and but it's not just people working fast food, which are at the bottom. There are people even in white collar jobs that are being automated out by outsourcing to India and the Philippines.
We've got a wrap here, guys. Governor, do you see any other initiatives headed for the ballot where you'd like to see this kind of deal reached?
Look, there's always been an interaction between the more extreme initiative and the response of the legislature. Many times the legislature can't respond because it's too controversial an issue. But many times in recent times, the legislature has responded, and it's remarkable, and we'll keep at it and keep doing good things. Hopefully, as long as the business cycle keeps its relentless climb upward till it stops and goes in the other direction. Okay, thank you very much.
There you go.